I designed and manufactured my own custom roller skate grind blocks. In this video, we're gonna test them out for the first time at the skate park. But before we do that, let's throw it back to past me at the workshop to explain how this project came to life. For years, I've skated on blocks like the Brunny Hardcore block, and I really love them, but I always wanted to design something that had a bit of a wing on it so you could have a second point of contact on grinds the way that rollerblades do when you have the frame and the sole plate touching. So I tried really early on to design something and have a friend 3D print it, and it kind of sucked and never really worked, and I put this on the back burner for a really long time. But this was the initial prototype of what we ended up with 2-3 years later today. So I set out to sketching to design my own version of an all-in-one block that would encompass all the things I loved from these other inspiration points. So I can still revisit this notebook that has the initial sketches in it. And it started with this profile of the block. And I ended up with this sketch right here. I got all the measurements for these sketches by taking a pair of digital calipers and getting as exact measurements as I could of all of the things that worked about the Brunny block, all of the things that worked about the Adrenaline block, and then took extra measurements of my actual skate setup to make sure this would have clearance in all the areas I needed it, that the holes would line up. And those are the measurements that I put into these drawings that then informed what I did in Fusion 360. I've never in my life tried to design something that is a 2-scale spec design that could be manufactured. So this was brand new for me. And when I designed this terrible product a few years ago, I used a product called Tinkercad, which is think Canva to Photoshop. This is like the free online, very limited software, and I did what I could, but again, this product never worked out. The measurements were all wrong. So I looked into Fusion 360, and this seemed like the right software for me to learn, to be able to draw this with the right dimensions and prep it for manufacturing. I spent the next week or two doing Fusion 360 tutorials after work every night, and by the end of 8 tutorials, I felt like I was ready to try my hand at making this model. So I started with the sketch profile of the block, the same as I had done in my sketchbook. Once I had that sketch profile drawn, I just had to extrude it out the length of the block that I had also included in my measurements. From there, it was a process of using various tools, extrusions, sketches to carve away the profiles on the other sides of the block. So, how was I going to manufacture these? Something like the Brunny block is manufactured in a factory with injection molding. I certainly do not have the budget to get molds made of this product, and I'm not confident enough in the design yet to go that far. So I went with 3D printing. But the thing is, I don't have a 3D printer, and I've never 3D printed anything in my life at this point. I got incredibly lucky and found a Reddit post of a free 3D printer in my area that just needed a small repair that I was capable of. So I met up with the guy and actually got 3 rolls of filament that I used for this whole project and the printer for free. And by the end of the night, had made the swap of the board and had the printer working. By the next 24-48 hours, I'd done a bunch of test prints and got the settings all dialed in. Instead of just going full res and wasting a ton of material, I did a really cheap material, low infill version. So basically 3D printers lay down a bunch of layers and you can choose how solid or how much space you want to be between those internal layers. So this is like kind of almost hollow. Things I learned from this iteration was that there was no way I wanted to deal with the post-processing on these logos. It came out cool looking, but incredibly rough to get these supports out of here. Adrenaline Labs really gave a great map for how to 3D print a functional block. With their Gecko freestyle sliders and the Gecko standards, they include a README that has their print specs for how they suggest printing these, with everything from number of walls to infill pattern, to the orientation in which you should print it, and the nozzle. I did my best to match those things as best as I could with my final prints, but I did some experimenting along the way. And I printed 2 of these, and they came out absolutely perfect. I printed these in PETG. For the first prototypes, these mounted up absolutely perfect to my skates, and they look phenomenal. The only thing I have left to do is go skate them. So let's do that. Oh, and by the way, this is a brand new setup, and I filmed a tutorial on how to mount to hard boots. So subscribe, you don't want to miss that. Feels great, really sturdy. Feels like I made the groove the right size. All right. Yeah. Yeah, they feel good. Okay. Nice. All right. Like butter, dude. How are they looking? Haha, yes, dude. I made these. I fucking made blocks, dude. There we go. Okay, close. There we go. Things are going pretty well. They're holding up fantastic. I mean, there's just wax marks on them, but no scratches at all. We're gonna see if we can change that, taking it to the ledge after we take a quick break. After that rail session, there's definitely a few things that I would change and that I've already kind of been looking into, like making the bottom of the block a bit more narrow so that boot down angle is a little steeper, or less steep, I guess. I want it to come in contact with this lower. I'm not describing it well. You'll see when I make it. I'm tired. Oh, I'll take that one. Yes! Perfect, dude. Fresh from the sesh, let's talk about a few things. First impressions of the design. Man, these slid really great for front sides and sole grinds and things where your foot is more straight. Where these fell a bit short for me and what I intended for them to do was on backslide tricks or using the inner kind of pud slide groove. I hope that these would have a better boot down angle for things like royales and back unities, but I struggled a bit to find that perfect angle where both of these were touching on some tricks. I did get the back unity and that felt pretty good, but I did struggle when trying royales, and Farbs didn't really feel comfortable to try today in these. I think the only thing I really want to change for that is I want to take these wings and angle them down. Right now they're angled a bit up from the block, and I think they need to either be flat or angled slightly down so they make contact a bit sooner. I may also take the block and make it less wide. So the width of it this way, I might take it and shrink it a little bit so the point of contact is a little bit deeper underneath your foot. There is no sign of wear on any part of this block. There's just kind of wax within the layer lines, which I think is great. I think it's just gonna break in perfectly. And there's no other visible signs of wear. There was no sounds of cracking, anything like that. These blocks are about 12 ounces each, so they're sturdy, but they didn't feel heavy and they're wearing perfectly. So I don't think I'll change anything about the print settings for version 2. I'll just be changing some things about the design, and the hope is to print them exactly the same in the same material, just another color, because I'm out of this. But yeah, after one session, I'm really impressed with something I 3D printed in this room, was able to skate like that. That's awesome. So I'll be working on a version 2 in Fusion 360, working to change some of those things I mentioned on the design. I want to document some of that process. Then we'll do a low res print to test how things are looking on the boot. And then we'll go for another full res print like this, make a pair that we can go and test out. I do like the idea of calling them Nick's blocks. Stay tuned, subscribe, because I'm just getting started on this journey. I'm so excited to have some new tools in my tool belt to be able to progress the sport that I love so much. So if you love roller skating, drop a like, comment on this video if you have any questions about this build or this project, and otherwise we'll see you on Instagram and in the next video.